All right, are you guys ready for a really long and boring video? Because that is what this mapping video is. There's not fun, cool graphics and music. It is just me, how I would map James's hair, and muttering to myself here and there. All right, so I've printed out some pictures of James' rooted hair just to help me. I'm not going to do it exactly the same, but I'm going to use it to kind of loosely help me to map out this head. And these are pictures that you can find on my website, palmviewreborns.com, under artist resources. So looking at the top, I like to start with the swirl. And looking at the top of the head, you don't see the swirl on the top. It's not like here. And this is something I learned from Sue Ellen Taormina's classes, that you don't actually see the swirl from the top of the head. So what I usually do is I'll put it in the middle, but I'll put it down far enough so that you don't see it from the top. Another way, so, I'm looking at that and I'll be like, oh, maybe here. Another way artists will do it is follow the ears, and then that intersection. But this is kind of how I do it. About there. So I'm going to paint this. And I'm going to do it with a number 2 round brush. And you can use a thinner brush, it's fine. This is just what I like to start with, because when I'm mapping, I do a lot of stopping and thinking and figuring, and if the brush is too thin for me, it'll like, the brush will dry while I'm still thinking. So, or the paint will dry. So I'm going to do this with Christine Woolley's brown colors. So we'll start with brown 1. A few drops. And I'll put in maybe the same amount of blend flow, 3 drops, paint, 3 drops, blend flow. It's really not exact. Yeah. And since I'm mapping, I might add a couple drops of water to make this more translucent. Okay. So let me look again what that looks like. So I'll try to draw that shape off to the side. I have my erasers at the ready to erase lines that I mess up. Okay, so then let me look again at this line. I'm always like looking back at my reference photo. All right, where does that start? What shape is that? I don't think it starts that far up. So let me take a little swab and kind of erase that part. Okay, and then it goes like, kind of like this. Okay, and then maybe I will also draw this line. Not quite like that. Okay, get that. And then do this line coming up. Like that. So it starts about there. All right. So that's sort of my basic swirl for this one. And then okay, so this is showing me, you know, where that first line, or this line, this was the one I drew. So this comes up like that. That's this line. So let me erase that part. Getting this wet in distilled water because it doesn't turn that way. Okay, now if that's dried too much that you can't get it with just a cosmetic sponge, then get one of these microblading swabs wet and put a little pressure, and that'll take the paint off. Now I've sealed under here so that it's not going to take off the paint below. Okay, so now it's kind of coming out this way. Okay. Here's another view so that I can see where this line comes around, or this line comes around. That was this line that I painted, and it comes out like that. So again, I think I'm going to erase this piece. And have it come out kind of like that. Now, looking at the top of the head, what I want to do here is I want to divide it up with like this imaginary line that goes halfway across and halfway across here. Okay, and then I'm going to imagine those halfway lines on the doll. So here's the intersection of the two halfway points, and we have this very loose S that comes across. I'm going to paint this line that comes across here. That, I gotta focus on the head again. Alright, so there's the halfway point. And so I'm gonna, here's this halfway point, so I'm just gonna do this lazy S. It's coming around here, like that. So that's kind of the middle of the lazy S. And then what other shapes do I want to paint here? Maybe I will add this shape over here. Trace that. This shape. It's about like that. It's not exact, but it's about like that. And then I have a shape over here. It goes. Let's see. So here's the S. Kind of comes off like that. Like that. Probably not all the way there. Okay, so that's just kind of some basic curves. So let's look at the front, and I'm going to do an imaginary line this way. And then where does this hair go? It's like this. So, okay, see where the eyes are? So if I look at this, it's about halfway between the eyes and the top of the head. So going back here, and then I'm going to draw this or paint this curve here because it's at the midway point. So let me imagine this line coming up midway. And then what did we decide? It was like halfway from the eyes up. So I'll put a little curve. Halfway, curve, about there. Halfway. Yeah, I like that. And it looks like I can connect that to this curve. So that's this one, and then let me also do this one that is slightly to the left of the halfway point, and it's a little further down than this curve. So like I say, it's not going to be exact, but just to kind of figure it out. And let's look at what is halfway between the top of the ear and the top of the head. A little imaginary line there. And then my other guideline, I'm going to go up from the front of the ear like this. So now if I look at that on here, if I go up like this, I'm going to try and paint this line. All right, about halfway up, front of the ear, and yeah, I don't like how that's looking. Okay, so front of the ear, then it comes around like this, and then comes up, that, and now where does it start to become straight across? If I'm looking at this, it's like halfway between this little imaginary line and the top. So there's the half point and then the top, so I will put that here. This is where this line is. And then that line is going to connect around. But let me finish this part first. So the front of the ear. Now how far does this hair go down? And you know, you don't have to make it this far down if you don't want, but if I look at the inner ear, it ends about where the middle of the inner part of the ear is. So here's this part, and that's about where it ends. So do just a little line there, just to remind me. If I look at this angle, try to draw that same angle. Okay. Let me draw another line just to fill this part in. Okay, so that's that side. The other side, I'm going to do the same thing. Imaginary line coming up from the front of the ear. There's nothing really to help me at the halfway point, so I don't think I'll draw this from the halfway point. But right here, up from the ear, I will draw that. Nope. Okay, and then it kind of comes around sort of like this. Not like that. Erase. But kind of like this. And I might leave, like if I want this to be a really thin line, I'm going to leave that until I come back with a thin brush, which is kind of the last layers that I do are with a thinner brush. Okay. Now how can I connect these? See this coming around there, so I could kind of come around this way. And then, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line coming up from the back of the ear. And I want to draw this shape. So here's the shape here, and then this shape comes around that sort of follows like this. Okay, there's the back of the ear, so it kind of comes around like that. And then where does it go? Curves down like this. Okay, and now I'm going to focus on the head now. A little better. Okay, so this little curvy line, I'm going to have come around, curve like that, just to connect it. If I look at this line, this is coming up like this. Okay. Let me go back to this side so that I can do the same thing with the back of the ear. Okay. So remember we drew this line straight across. Now there's some more lines, but up at this halfway point, back of the ear. Okay, back of the ear, halfway point. There's another. Okay, back of the ear, halfway point. Okay, so that comes around like this. And then it comes up. So that will connect to the swirl. Let me do another one here to help me out. Maybe this one. And you might want to mark at the bottom, like how far does it come down? So let's go back to the swirl to see if we can kind of connect some of these. How are they connecting? And they're not connecting. Everything isn't connecting. There's like some blank spots here. So you don't have to like make everything connect at the swirl. But I'll kind of do some lines around here. This goes towards the swirl. This comes around like that. And then if we look at the bottom of the head, the back of the head by the neck, here's the ears. So let me put a... Now this isn't quite in the middle, so I'll put it off to the side. Like that. Right. So you could get a lot more detailed, but I'm just going to do that as a basic framework. You know what, I want to go back to this one. Connect a little bit better. Okay. So we've got this hair here. Here's the angle that this goes from the ear. So try to do that. Yeah, that's too dark. Wipe that off on a paper towel. And then I've got these little pieces here. And that comes up this way. This all just kind of curves around like that. And then you can just go between if you want. You know, kind of like that. All right, like I say, I'm not doing an exact replica. I'm just getting some basic lines in. Wow, I'm not sure how you made it through to the end of that, but congratulations. Here's a little dance.